Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of the Morning Market Review. Right, we still have quite a few amount of persons at this time. Let's just hold on for other people to join in, and then we'll proceed shortly. Okay, so let's just give them about 5 minutes and we'll get started.
I want to do something first.
Okay, you go get it. Okay, so welcome again, ladies and gentlemen, to the morning market review. Right. So I think we have a good number of persons in the class where we could proceed. So please, as you join in, don't forget to mute yourself and also turn off your videos so that we don't distract other persons. Right. So I'll proceed to muting everybody. Also, please turn off your videos from your own end. Right. So you don't distract every other person. Okay, so let's dive into it. Let me share my screen. So, as a trader, I always advise the first thing you look into is Forest Factory, which is your economic calendar to determine what news you'll be expecting for the day, and that to a large extent should guide whatever trades you'll be taking in the market. Right, that should guide the trade you'll be taking in the market. Right. So, okay, please give me a few minutes. Okay. All right. So for this morning, today we is Wednesday, 7th of February. We don't have we don't have high impact news coming out. What we have medium impact news. I already did my filter. If you go to Forest Factory, you have your filter at this point here. I did my filter for only high impact and medium impact news. I'm mostly concerned about those two because those are the ones that gives me the volatility I need. Right. So I just do my filter for high impact and medium impact news, and that's it. So for today, we don't have any high impact news, but we'll be expecting a couple of medium impact news. This morning around 9 a.m., we'll be having news on the Swiss franc, that's CHF. So we have their foreign exchange reserve, right? And the previous actually came out, it came out as a 65.4 billion, right? So if you click on this calendar, you get more regarding this news, right? So we have that on CHF. We have USD. It's not a data news. It's just a speech. So we have FOMC member uh, Kogler will be speaking, and then we have Bakin will also be speaking by 5 p.m. and 6:30 p.m. respectively. Then by 7 p.m., that's 7:01 p.m., we have the 10 years bond auction. So for those that don't know what a bond is a government contract, right? That the government give to its citizen, right? So indicating that, okay, if you're investing or if you're putting in a certain money with the government or you're keeping a certain amount of money with the government, after over a period of time, you'll be getting a monthly stipend, right? You'll be getting monthly returns based on that, based on how long the duration of that bond is. So for the 10-year bond auction, it simply means they are going to be reviewing the bond auction for 10 years for those that actually paid for that for 10 years. So mostly when it comes to bond, it's actually used to mop out money from the economy. In a scenario where there is over circulation of a currency, the government can actually introduce that to mop out money from the economy. So why is it very important? It's important because traders, to a large extent, that gives you the money flow index of an economy. It gives you the direction at which the government or measures in which the government is using to control inflation and also over circulation of a particular currency, right? So it's a very, very big deal when it comes to trading, and that will be coming up by 7 p.m. right? So that being said, so we have news on USD and CHF, but I would just majorly be focusing on USD. Let's also look at a currency strength meter. Currency strength meter, this is on a daily time frame. I'm using currency strength meter from marketmilk.babypips.com. So on currency strength meter, you can see that the NZD, which is the New Zealand dollar, is currently the strongest of all the currency at the moment, right? Which is subjective to change because this chart you're seeing here is in real time. This chart you're seeing here is in real time, so it's subjective to change based on market demand and based on market demand. So the next currency you have is the euro, we have the AUD, we have GBP, which is next. We have CAD, which is slightly weak. We have CHF, which is weak. The USD is very weak this morning. And the weakest of all the pair is your JPY. So of course, to make good money in the market, you need to pair weak currencies with strong currency. So the major goal when it comes to Forex is buying the strong currency and selling off the weak currency. Buying the strong currency and what's selling off the weak currency. So I'm going to look at I'm going to look at the dollar index just to get a rough preview as to what happened yesterday. We're going to get fundamentals as to what actually pushed the markets yesterday. Let me do a search for dollar index. Okay, DX, and we'll just pick the last news. So this news came out about an hour ago, and yes, this came out about an hour ago. Let's look at that. So we'll just run through the headline. We don't need to take much time. We'll just run through the headline. It's just to give us a clear idea as to what the dollar is doing at the moment, right? And what actually influenced the dollar yesterday. Because in all our analysis, we need to pull together fundamental analysis. Please turn off your video cam so you don't keep distracting the class, please. So it's just for us to have a rough sketch as to what the dollar did yesterday and what we should be expecting in the market, so we don't just jump into the market blindly. So here we have a dollar on a defense after pullback from nearly 3 months peak, right? So dollar has actually been climbing for about it's on a defense after a pullback from nearly 3 months peak. So for for the last 3 months we've had a strong dollar after mid-June where we had that CPI, and then we've had a price fall for almost up until I think up until around October. We had the dollar actually crash against other currency, but late last year we had the dollar start gaining strength. Then of course, it was actually speculated that the dollar might continue to gain a boost because they said they were going to cut their interest rate, right? They were going to cut their interest rate early this year, and they've been using that as a bait for investors. They've been using it more like how like to bait people into bringing more money into the economy because today Paul will say might give he comes out and say, okay, today we are actually going to there is a likelihood of us increasing interest rates or cutting down rates, and by the time it's time for him to do the action, he just gives a neutral statement and said there might be no need to increase it. And he did that early February, early January when we were expecting that interest rates to be cut. And then also this February, there's every possibility that we still might not get that cut in interest rates, right? And of course, is looking at everything. Yeah, last year dollar suffered a high value of inflation pre that was a post COVID-19. All the stimulus package that was rolled out, the money that was given out to citizens, and over circulation of the dollar in the US economy actually took a toll on the dollar. So they had to put in a lot of measures. So as I last year, the major thing that was on the news was cutting interest rates in order for them to cut down the inflation crisis in the US. Things were getting expensive and all of that. So the best way was to cut interest rates and also introduction of some government bond yields in order to also mop money from the economy. And to a large extent, it actually worked. Right, to a large extent, it actually works. We also had the likes of the BRICS alliance that we all speculated that it was going to bring an end to the dollar, right? We all thought, okay, BRICS has come into play. There's going to be a new currency, right? And of course, most countries are now boycotting the US as to doing their international trades in their own local currency. Right? So Russia started it whereby they decided if you're going to be buying Russian oil, you're not going to be buying Russian oil with the US dollar anymore. And recently, Iran rather has also followed that direction. So if you're going to be buying Iranian oil, you're going to be buying it in their local currency. So gradually, some countries are boycotting the US when it comes to using the dollar as a major means of exchange. But if you notice, it hasn't really taken a lot of toll on the dollar, which we all know that the dollar is the US on its own is a very strong economy, and it will take years for the dollar to be completely crumbled by some of these things that it's facing. But nonetheless, they still have to put preventive measures in place to ensure that the dollar still remain the dollar still remain the world means for trading, the world trading currency, right? So they still have to put things in place to ensure that the dollar still keeps its head high. So yesterday. Uh, yesterday, this news was from this was from yesterday, yes. We had a dollar defense pullback. Let's just look into it. So we had I'm just looking at the headlines where we could just touch to determine. Okay, so yes, we had a U.S. Treasury yield was turned down from the highs overnight. I talked about Treasury yield, and of course we have the 10 years bond coming up today. So to a large extent, treasury yield is also works like bond, or they are more or less the same thing, right? So if yields, the data on treasury yields is doing well, it simply means that the dollar on its own has a little bit of strength, or the dollar on its own is doing well, right? So the fact that treasury yields is being turned down, it simply means the dollar is not looking so good, and that's why when you look at the currency strength meter, you have it's even currently weak. It was way it was before the JPY, but now it has dropped below the JPY, right? So the dollar is actually very weak this morning and it might continue in that light up until when we have those medium impact, and their medium impact news. I mean, they might not have so much effect in the market, but I think since you have two persons coming out to give speech on what the economy might actually be saying, we might get that by 5 p.m., 6:30, and then 7. So we still have a long time for the dollar to still stay weak before we have a significant change in market direction on the dollar, right? So mostly what I'll be looking out for is majorly a sell-off on the dollar. Right, long term, I'll be looking at a sell off on the dollar for today. But of course, we still need to put in place technical analysis in order to understand in depthly where to put our entries. We already have a clear we already have a clear idea that the dollar is weak, and we, at least to some extent, we know some of the reasons why the dollar is weak. Let's look at another thing. They said the dollar remains a force to reckon with. Analysts, okay, so let's look at this. So okay, so yeah, you're saying the dollar is most likely to stay strong in coming months, according to foreign exchange strategies, right? So that's this year is still talking about interest rate cuts. You know, I said it that the dollar have been the U.S. government has actually been using interest rate cuts to bait investors. And when it comes to the U.S., one thing about them that is very peculiar is they know the game very well, in terms of they know how to bait investors to keep coming in despite the fact that the dollar isn't doing so well. Because if not, throughout the whole of last year, right, there've been a whole lot of negative sentiment around the dollar. The fact that US was on Israel's side on the Israel-Palestine war, right? The fact that US was on Ukraine side on the Russia-Ukraine war, right? And of course, how will I call it? Major players when it comes to the oil industries are actually they are ditching the US. Saudi, as at last year, came up with a deal, right, with Russia, boycotting the US when it comes to oil supply, right? When it comes to oil supply, they boycott the US, aligning with Russia and like, right. We also have the cold, more of a subtle trade war between Russia and China, right? Which we all know that US is also one of the largest consumer of the Chinese products, right? And if their companies, especially their manufacturing companies, they get cheap labor from China, they get cheap raw materials from China and all of that. So that also it also played some major effect on the weakness in the dollar last year. But with their strong stance in the world government at large, or with their strong, how will I put it, economic play, they were able to overcome most of these things by just little tweaking of the interest rates, little introduction of bond yields, little policies here and there, right? Also, strategically increasing their reserve. Right, because when it comes to their oil reserve, when it comes to their foreign exchange reserve, they still kept strong, and to a large extent that's still what is keeping dollar going, right? So US on its own also is also a service-based economy, right? You have the likes of Apple, you have the likes of Amazon, Google. So to a large extent these companies also gave a shock absorber as to what the dollar should have actually expected so far, right? So um, despite the fact that the dollar is weak, right, which I still expect that for the major part of today, right, we'll be looking out for a sell-off on the dollar. But in the long run, the dollar will still find a way to bounce back in. So let's just go to the chart to determine entries we'll be looking at for the day. So we'll be looking at a dollar index first, the USD IDX dollar index. So looking at dollar index on a daily time frame, this is dollar index on a daily time frame. As at this was about 2 days ago or 3 days ago, roughly around 3 days ago, we had this gap up in the dollar. And of course, there's always room for market correction, which we could see that the dollar is that's a market gap is currently trying to cover up at this point in time. And in addition with the weakness in the dollar at this point in time, so there's every possibility that price might still actually continue to push down. Price might still actually continue to push down. So the dollar against the basket of other currency is still very weak. So my preference on USD IDX will still be a sell. But let's now look for a strategic point to go in for that sell. Let's look for a strategic point to go in for that sell. So currently, the dollar index is actually being is heading towards this support here. You could see this support here that formed around the 2nd of February. Right, we have this very strong support here. So if at all you're going to be going in for a sell, you need to consider the fact that price might actually hit this support and then retrace off that support. So I'd advise you going for a sell if price is able to break below that support. So you go going for a sell at around 103.801. You're going for a sell around that point. So like I said, my preference is a sell, but I'd want to go in for a sell at price level 103.801, then going for my take profit before the next support point, which is my Tonkut resistance at this point here, which was on the 1st of February, right? We have that at price level 103.617 are going for a sell and take my profit around that point. Of course, you know how to put your stop loss. Should you want to have your stop loss on your chart, ensure you put your stop loss above your previous high, right? Above your previous high or above your resistance point. So in this case, if I'm going to be putting my stop loss, it will be above my previous high. So I just want to give it a few pip. Yeah. So I put my stop loss above my previous high. So it could be anywhere around 104.050. Right? You could put your stop loss around there. So that's my preference for USD IDX. But like I said, we have that news coming up around that's around 4, 5, and then 7, right? So we most likely will just have the market move technically. So if price is able to break below the support technically, then you're going for a sell, considering the fact that the dollar is weak. But alternatively, you could have your buy pending order. You could have your buy pending order above this resistance point. You could have your buy pending order above this resistance point at price level 104.070. 104.070. Have your buy pending order somewhere around there, then take your profit before the next resistance, anywhere before the next resistance here. So you could have it at 104.362. Right, 104.362. But like I said, my preference on USD IDX is a sell from everything we've gathered from both the news and Forex Factory, right? So this would be about 18 pips. Yeah, this is roughly around 18 pips. And of course, 18 pip on maybe 0.01 wouldn't really make a whole lot of sense. So if I have roughly around, let's say 500K in my account, I think a good lot size should be roughly around 0.5 to about 0.9 for you to make good amount of money. This is a dollar index. It's not as profitable as index. Right. So if I have at least even if you have 0.1 on this trade, I think dollar index should be making you roughly around on 0.01. Dollar index should be making you roughly around 600 or thereabout, if I'm not mistaken. 600 and 600, yeah. So on 0.1 will be about 6,000 naira, or roughly around 6,000 naira, then times how many pip? This is about 17, roughly around 18 pip, roughly around 18 pip. So you do the math, and of course, also calculate your spread. Also, puts into consideration your spread. So let me see how much of a spread I need to pay on this instrument. Show ask line. Okay, so my spread is roughly around, it's still very low. right? So this is about 2 pip spread. So 18 minus your 2 pips, so you still have about 16 pips. Then times 6,000 naira if you're using 0.1. But if you have good volume, you could do a standard lot, which will be giving you a standard lot should be giving you roughly around 6,000 naira per pip movement on this, right? If I'm not mistaken, yes, yes, roughly around 60,000 naira per pip movement on this. And if you have roughly around, let's say 5.65 million naira, you could actually make a good one on that trade, right? So this the next instrument we'll be looking at is a GBP USD. The next instrument we'll be looking at is GBP USD. Of course, the dollar is weak, and as expected, GBP is actually in play here. So price has actually hit a resistance point, and of course, it wouldn't be wise for you to take your trade at your resistance. So I'd want to go in for a buy. Dollar is weak. I'm looking at selling off the dollar and buying off other stronger currency. So I'll look at going in for a buy. I believe you can all see my screen, right? To be sure, if you can see my screen, let me just get a yes in the chat session. Okay, all right, all right, all right. So if I'm going to be going in for a buy on GBP USD, I'm actually going to be going in for a buy above my resistance point, right? So my resistance is at 1.26529. So I just want to go in for an entry above that point. I just give a few pips above that point, somewhere around there. If you notice, there was a little bit of if you notice here, price actually broke above that point and then sharply came down. So to be safe, I want to even also go completely above that point to be on the safe side. So my entry will be at price level, though it seems far. This is on a 1 hour time frame, but though it seems far, but I think that's the safest point. Except you're going in for a shorter trade on the 15 minutes time frame. Let's look at it. If you're going in for a shorter trade on a 15 minutes time frame, is it worth our time? Let's see. How many people did it cost us to enter from here up until here? So that will cost us about okay, it's still worth our time though. So I'd rather do it on a 15 minutes time frame so I get closer entry. But if you want to take a longer time trade, just ensure you take your trade above this resistance point. So you might want to adjust that your entry, bring it a little bit lower. So I'm going for my entry at price level. I'm going for my entry at price level 1.26308, 1.26308. I'm going for my entry around that point, and then take my profit at price level 1.26448, 1.26448. I take my profit around that point. That's before the next resistance. Let's look at it on a 1 hour time frame. Yes, that's still a good trade, right? So I'm going for my entry at price level. That's my buy entry at price level 1.26308. Take my profit at 1.26448. Then for your stop loss, of course, by now you should know how to put your clear stop loss. Ensure you have your stop loss below your previous support, right? Below your previous support. So if you check closely on the 12th of on the 2nd of February, we had a minor support around there. Then we had another support somewhere around there. But I'd want to use the closest support. So below the closest support, I'd have my stop loss. So I should have my stop loss at price level 1.26085, 1.26085, right? So you could always adjust your stop loss, depends on your risk appetite, and depends. And also you could also adjust your take profit if you feel that profit margin is too small, right? Especially on days like this where you completely have the dollar very weak and then the GBP is very strong at this point in time. So there's every possibility that price might still continue pushing up. So if by virtue of chance price gets to your take profit and you still want to extend, or price is close to your take profit and you still want to extend your take profit, of course you could go ahead and do so, right? But alternative scenario, right, I'm actually going to have my sell stop, alternatively have my sell stop, of course, below the below the current low of price, right? Below the current low of price, that's below my support here. So you could see price is clearly supported at this point. So I'd want to have my sell stop, right? Alternatively, have my sell stop below that point, have my sell stop at price level 1.25, 1.900, then have my take profit at 1.25676, 1.25676. So my preference is a buy. So I'm just going to see how much that would that would be about 15 pip on GBP USD. GBP USD is not a very expensive instrument, right? It's not a very expensive instrument. GBP USD should be roughly around, let's say, 70 or 100 and something naira per pip movement, right? That's on 0.01. Let's say 70 naira, or even way lesser than that. Maybe about 16 naira. I'm not sure. But let's say 16 naira, 17 naira, around that range. So if I'm using 0.01, of course, this trade wouldn't make so much sense. If I'm doing 0.01 times, of course, if you deduct 1 pip spread, that's 14. That's 14 times, that's 14 times 17 naira. For example, that would be giving me about 915 naira. It doesn't really make any sense. So, of course, a good lot size would make better sense. So if I'm using let's say a standard lot will be giving me about 7,000 naira per pip movement, 7,000 naira per pip movement times roughly around 14 pip. That is still about 98,000 naira. Yes, my of 14 pip times 7,000 naira. Yes, that's about a 97, 98 pips, which is still very fair for a currency trade. So if you have good volume, if you have roughly around 200,000, 300,000, you could take that on a standard lot. And if you have anything lesser than that, you could go on a mini lot and you'll still make something good proportional to your trading account, right? So let's look at Euro USD. Let's look at Euro USD. Also, yeah, Euro USD as expected is also on a bullish run, right? It's also on a bullish run considering the weakness in the dollar. And of course, it's also sitting on a resistance point. This point here, you have price being resisted here. So the best thing to do will be to enter your buy above that resistance point. The best thing will be to enter your buy above that resistance point. And like we have it here, we have another resistance very close by. All right, so what we're going to do is to be taking our buy in between this point here, in between this point, though it might look slim, right? And this is zero USD. It's actually one of the, it's the cheapest pair you could have out there on the financial market. So this is about 12 pip. All right, let's go to a 15 minutes time frame. Yes, this is roughly around 12 pip. So if I'm going to be going in, of course, I wouldn't go in on the resistance point. I do also want to give it a few distance above the resistance to ensure that price actually breaks above that resistance before picking my trade to be on the safe side so I don't get caught in the crossfire. So I'll go in for a buy. Okay, sorry about that. We had technical issues. Okay, so let's just dive back. I believe you can all see my screen and you can all hear me, right? Yeah, if you can, just let me get the yes in the chat session. Okay, all right. So let's proceed. So I was actually talking about Euro USD before um before we had that break, right? So I suggested we actually going for a buy on Euro USD, right? Of course, we're going in for a buy above this resistance point, right? Have our entry at price level. Please mute, turn off your video cam, please, so that you don't keep distracting the whole class, right? So we're going for a buy at price level 1.07730. Take your profit at 1.07826, right? Take your profit at 1.07826, right? Then, of course, I already stated how you can determine your stop loss. Ensure you have your stop loss below the support. So this was the previous support here. If you look closely, if you have to shrink your charts, you probably would just have need to shrink your chart and discover that yeah was yeah price was supported. That was on the 5th of February. You had a support around there, so definitely you'd want to go in for put your stop loss below that support. You bring your stop loss down. You can have your stop loss at price level 1.07665, 1.07650, sorry, 1.07650. I have my stop loss somewhere around there, so my preference is a buy. My preference is a buy. Then alternatively, for a sell, if I thought you're going to be considering a sell, you'd want to go in for a sell. You could have your sell stop at price level. Your price, bring your sell stop below this support zone. It will be wise for you to bring your sell stop below the support zone and have your sell stop at price level 1.07 1.07532, 1.07532, and have your take profit at price level 1.07471, 1.07471, right? So that's for Euro USD. Let's quickly look at USD JPY. So from investing.com or from our currency strength meter, you could tell that both the JPY and the USD are both weak. Both the JPY and the USD are both weak. So if you're going to be considering this instrument, you most likely will not be trading this instrument technically. You most likely will not be trading this instrument technically. So since the JPY is weak and the USD is mostly weak, so you're definitely going to be experiencing this. Price might actually range in between this region, right? In between this region. And for you to trade a ranging market, the best thing is to wait for a breakout, right? So of course, there are expert traders that would argue that they can trade in between. Yes, it's fine. If you're a scalper, you can actually trade in between. Like for example, if I'm actually going to go in for a trade on USD JPY now and I'm going to be scalping the market, I can go in for an instant buy. Right, I can go in for an instant buy at this point. I can go in for an instant buy up until this resistance point. So I buy from current market price down to up to this resistance, right? You could go in for that, and of course have your stop loss below your support here. Have your stop loss below your support here. This would serve as my stop loss. So if I'm going in for an instant buy up onto this resistance, I'd have my stop loss at this point. So that's for scalpers. You could do that multiple times. You could stack your trade, take 4-5 of this position, and it will still make you good amount of money, right? But as a position trader, I'm actually going to do this instead of trading in between that region. I'm going to wait for a breakout. As a position trader, I'm actually going to look for a breakout. So I wait for price to either break above. Since the market is weak for both currency, I'm actually going to wait for price to break either above or below. But the likelihood of price breaking above is slim because we don't have any high impact news coming out. We don't have any news coming out on the JPY. to say. So the only set of news we have are news coming out on the USD. So most likely price might actually go in favor of the USD. So of course, my preference on this would also be a sell should price break below this support. So I'm going for my sell at price level 147.5618. Sorry, 147.581. 147.581. I'm going for a sell at 147.581. Then I take my profit at price level 147.183. 147.183. 147.183. So that's my entry for a sell on USDJPY. And then alternatively for a buy, I have my buy entry at price level 148.183. 148.183. Have my take profit at I'd have my take profit at 148.673. Have my take profit at 148.673. 148.673. So that's my entry for that's my preference for USDJPY. It's actually a sell, but of course, since we have a ranging market at this point, you should be expecting nothing less of a breakout, except you're scalping now, which I advise you going for an instant buy up onto the current the nearest resistance that you could see on your chart, right? So if I'm going to be taking this position trade on USDJPY, this is roughly around 38 pip, right? This is roughly around 38 pip. So 38 pip on USDJPY should be about 140 naira on 0.01, right? If I'm not mistaken, 140 naira on 0.01. And then you have on a standard lot, that's roughly around 14,000 naira on a standard lot. If I'm yeah, no, that's okay. So that's 140 naira on 0.01. You add zero, that's roughly around 14,000 naira on 0.1. And then 140,000 naira on a standard lot. Yes, that's 140,000 naira on a standard lot. 140,000 naira on a standard lot. So if I have good volume, take for example, I have let's say 5 million naira in my account, or I have, even if I have up to a million naira, I can go on 0.1, right, or 0.2 or 0.3. Any of the mini lots will be fine, right? A mini lot will be good for this trade. So calculate that by the number of pip. So if you calculate this by the number of pip, that's 39 pip. Also bear in mind your spread. The spread on USDJPY is roughly around that's about 2 pip. That's about 2 pip USDJPY, 2 pip or thereabout, right? So it's because this is a standard account, the spread floats, but it goes within 1 to 2 pip. So the worst case scenario, you get 2 pip in spread minus 38. That's you still have about 36 pip left. You still have about 36 pip left. So if you're doing 36 times, if you're going 36. So if you have 36 or times 14,000 naira, that should give you that's on a 14,000 naira on a standard lot. 14,000 naira on a standard lot, I stand corrected. That will give you about 504,000 naira. So 1,004 on a mini lot. If you're making 1,004 on a mini lot, that should give you about 50 something thousand naira, right? So that's it. So for USD card, let's look at USD card. Let's look at USD card. USD card also. Let's just take a quick peep at our currency strength meter. Let's take a quick peep at our currency strength meter. So I want to see where the card is currently. The card is also a very weak instrument at this point in time. We have the card weak at this point in time also, but it's not as weak as the USD. So most likely price would go in direction of the card. So you should have price actually fall, right? But majorly because both instruments are ranging, right? Both instruments are weak, or both currencies are weak rather. You would also have a ranging market. So price will range from this point up until this point. You just see price go, get to the resistance, come back to the support, get to the resistance, come back to the support. So in such a scenario, of course, I implore you go to a lower time frame, right? But noticing that, let's look at USD card. the spread on USD CAD is roughly around 3 pip. So if I'm actually going to be scalping this instrument, I also need to consider the spread on it. That's roughly around 3 pips. So I also need to consider the spread on it and ensure that even if I'm going to go in for an entry, I ensure that I go in for an entry to that would still enable me to make good amount of profit in this market. So scalping a buy at this point in time. So if you're going in for a buy, taking note that pricing in previous action, price did not completely get to this resistance point. So if I tell I'm going in for a buy, I'll take my buy from this point up onto this resistance. That's roughly around 5 pip, right? That's roughly around 5 pip. So 5 pip minus 3, which will be, I'll be left with 2 pip. It's not a profitable trade. If you do your math, it's not a profitable trade. So I wouldn't advise you even scalp on this instrument, right? It's not a profitable trade at all. 2 pip, for me, it's a waste of time. So I wouldn't advise you going for a scalp on that instrument. So it's just best you just do a breakout trade. You wait for price to break either above or below the support. You wait for price to either break above or below the support, right? Either above or below the support. So what we're going to do is we expect that news should come out on the USD, which should give the dollar strength maybe later in the day, right? Later in the day. So I'd go in for a sell below that support. I'm going for a sell at price level 1.34615, 1.34615, 1.34615. Take my profit at 1.34439. So I go in for my sell at 1.34615, 1.34615. Go in for my take profit at 1.34439, 1.34439, 1.34439. I'm going for my take profit at around that point. So alternatively for my buy, I don't want to go in for my buy, of course, above this resistance point, above here, that will be somewhere around there. I'm going for my buy at price level 1.34991, 1.34991. I'm going for my buy at 1.349191. Take my profit here at price level 1.35178, 1.35178, 1.35178. So I think we've covered how many currencies? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let's look at indices and commodities. So we would pick gold first. We'll pick gold first. So gold actually had a whole lot of range yesterday. Towards the end of yesterday, after as a result of the weakness in the dollar yesterday, we had the price push up. But for the early hours of this morning, gold has been ranging, and we all know why. Because the dollar is weak, and we are expecting news coming out on the dollar. So to a large extent, that will give the direction of gold for this morning, right? So if you're going to be trading, like I said, if you're trading a ranging market, right, you might want to go to a shorter time frame, right? And on a shorter time frame, you get some minor support and resistance zone. Let's look at that. I'm marking that out. So minor support and resistance. To trade either below this support or above this resistance point. So in this case here, it will be best for you to use pending orders, right? It will be best for you to just use pending orders, right? Since there is no clear-cut direction as to where the market is moving on gold. So for if I'm going to be setting my pending orders, that will be below. This is 23 pip. This is 23 points on gold. 231 points on gold. That's 23 pip. So if you're calculating the spread also, calculating the spread, this is also 3 pip in spread. So for gold, 3 pip in spread, and you have about 23 pips. So you still have about 20 pip left in profit for yourself. So if I'm going to go in, I'm going to go in for my pending sell, my sell stop below that resistance point. So of course, because I'm going for my sell below that support, because I'm going for my sell below that support, and I want to take my profit at this point here, that will further drop the number of pip I'm expecting. So because I don't want to be caught in a fake out, so I need to sacrifice some pips and come way below that support. So I'm going for my sell at price level 2033.39, 2033.39, 2033.39, 2033.39. I'm going for a sell at around that point. Then you can have your take profit before 2031.52. So you have your take profit before 209.2 2031.52, 2031.52 before that point. So if you're calculating how much you'll be making in profit, so this is roughly around 18 pip, 18 pip minus your 3 pip in spread, that will still give you about 15 pip. Also on gold should be about gold should be about 600 naira per pip movement. No, is it up to 300 naira per pip movement, if I'm not mistaken? 300 naira per pip movement. So if you are doing 0.01, you should be getting roughly around 300 naira, right? You should be getting roughly around 300 naira. And then, of course, on a mini lot size, that should be giving you 3,000 naira. And then on a standard lot size, that should be giving you roughly around 300K. So it's gold, it's commodity, it's actually much more expensive than currencies where you get 80 something and all of that. Right? So it's gold, it's far more expensive. Right? So a good trade on this with a good lot size will still make you a good amount of money, and you don't need to stay too long in the market. You don't need to stay too long in the market. I can assure you that, right? So let's look at oil. Let's look at oil this morning. So for oil this morning, looking at oil on a 1 hour time frame, you can see that oil is currently sitting on its support point here. Oil is currently sitting on a support. So I read somewhere yesterday regarding oil. I said that earlier during my breakdown on the news that Iran, which supplies oil, is looking at buying doing their dealings in their currency. So most of the countries, especially the ones in the Middle East that supplies oil, are looking at ditching the dollar and making their currency a legal tender for oil, just like Russia had done early last year, right? So in light of that, most or other country or other OPEC countries might emulate this, right? Other countries might actually emulate this, and to a large extent, right? OPEC has not been following the quota because there's been a whole lot of divide when it comes to OPEC regulation in output and then oil cuts, right? So sometimes the US intentionally flood the market to bring the prices down, while OPEC now counter that by cutting oil prices. And of course, we've also had the fact that the Chinese economy has not fully gotten back to its actual strength. China is a manufacturing economy. It's a manufacturing economy, just like the Japanese too. They're also a manufacturing economy. So they have heavy need for oil. They consume heavy, they import high amount of oil. So in a scenario where the economy is not running at 100% capacity, their demand would drop, right? And once their demand drop, that will also drop the price of oil also. So demand for oil drops the prices for oil, and that's why you've had this major downplay. That's why you've had this major downplay for oil, right? That's why you've had this major downplay for oil. Right, so some of these little pullback are as a result of the fact that OPEC comes to cut down the supply quota. So sometimes they cut. Let's take for example, they used to supply 2 million barrels per day. They cut it to 1.5 million barrels per day in order for them to control price, in order for them to regulate price. Of course, scarcity brings about value. So cutting down the production quota would ensure that there is a little bit of scarcity, which would also affects the price of oil, pushing it back up. And we also had the fact that one of Russia's oil refinery was hit by a drone. Right, it was hit by a drone, which also deterred production, and of course, circulation of oil in especially when it comes to the European zone now. Before, they were major consumers of the Russian oil, but because of these sanctions that has been placed on Russia, right, and their alignment with NATO, some of the European countries can't get Russian oil anymore. So those are some of the things that are playing out when it comes to the oil market. Oil is a very, very political market. Is a very, very political market because one little thing and it's up there, and one little thing it's all the way down there. So if I'm going to be going in for oil this morning, I'm actually going to go in for a breakout. I completely only trade breakouts for oil. I don't scalp oil. I don't scalp oil at all. I don't take my chances scalping oil at all because it's a very, very political instrument. So I want to go in for a breakout on oil. If price breaks above this resistance, of course, I take my buy at price level 79.45, though it's far, but to me it's the safest point to put my price 79.45, then have my take profits here at price level 80.07, price level 80.07, right? I really used to give oil that gap well. I can't shout too much, right? So alternatively, for my sell, I'm going for a sell below the support. Of course, you have a fake out, several fake outs around here. So I'd want to go in for my sell below that fake out. Right? I'd want to go in for my sell below that fake out. Right. So you could go in for your sell to a price level 77.78, have my take profit before the support here at 76.80. 76.80. Have my take profit at 76.80. So that's my take on oil this morning. So let's look at US 100. We'll look at US 2000, and then we'll call this session a close. Right. So for US 100, God bless whoever is putting those entries down. Please, thank you. My support person is not actually here at this point in time. Right. So for US 100, we're actually going to also have more of a quiet market since the dollar would be very quiet this morning. So this is on a 15 minutes time frame. Let's look at it or US 100 on a 1 hour time frame. Okay, same thing. We'd also still be having a an indecisive market this morning. You most likely will be having an indecisive market this morning. So what I'd advise you do is to also trade, take a buy, mostly pending order, mostly pending order. Let me go to a 5 minutes time frame. Okay, right. So on a 5 minutes time frame, you get better entries. You get clear and better entries for you to go into. And it's indices, no matter how small, you still would be making profit, no matter how small the PPs, regardless you're using a good lot size. So I'd want to go in for a sell. I use I'll be taking my sell stop at price level 17626.14. 172626.14. I'd have my take profit just before the support there at price level 17609.14. 17609.14. So that's my entry for a sell. Alternatively, for my buy, if you watch closely, you have a support at this point, right? A resistance rather at this point, and then just not too far beyond that, you still have another resistance around here, right? So because of how close my resistance is from here to this point, I will just ignore this zone entirely. I'd ignore this zone entirely, and then just going for that my buy entry at price level, because this is a 5 minutes time frame. I mean, price should still be able to cover up this distance and then pick your entry should price go into a buy. So the major thing is for you to be at a safe point so that price doesn't trigger your entry and you start running at loss, right? So the major thing always is for you to be in the clear, for you to be safe. So if price is going to pick your entry, it should be that price has gone in for a buy, a clear buy. So what you do is you're going for a buy at price level 176007, 17667.18, 17667.18. Take your profit at 17685.06, right? So my buy stop will be at 17667.18. Take my profit at 17685.06. So this will be that's roughly around you see, so I told you US 100, it's the quote, you can see that the quoting is higher, so definitely it's far more expensive, right? So this is roughly around 181 pip. This is roughly around 181 pip, right? And then here you have right? So the price quoting for US 100 is actually very tight, and which makes it very expensive, right? So you can see price has gotten all up all the way to 17,000 to tell you how expensive US 100 can be. So no matter how small your entry is or your take profit is, it's still going to make you a good amount of money with good loss size. So this one will give me roughly around 175 pips. 175 pips. So if you do your calculation, that should be giving me nothing less than, if I use I wouldn't use a standard lot if I don't have up to 300,000. No, if I don't have up to a standard lot, I mean, if I don't have up to 4 or 5 million, I wouldn't use a standard lot on this particular instrument, right? If I don't have up to 4 or 5 million, but if I have up to, let's say, 300, 400, 500K, I could do a good micro lot size, let's say within the 0.05 to 0.09. It's still good. It's still fair enough for you to get good amount of money. And if I have, let's say, a 1 millionaire, I could still go for a mini lot size within 0.1 to 0.5. Right. So that will still suffice for this trade. Right. So the last instrument we'll be looking at is US 2000. Right. US 2000. For US 2000, same thing here. You have a very quiet market. Looking at it on a 15 minutes time frame too, you have a very quiet market, right? So definitely same thing. I just advise we use pending orders for this also. Use pending orders for these. Have my sell stop below the support at price level 1957.01, 1957.01, 1957.01. So, and then have my take profit at 1954.7. Okay, sorry. My entry at 1957.0, sorry, 1957.0. Have my take profit at 1954.7, 1954.7, 1954.7. Then alternatively for my buy, I'm going for my buy above this resistance point, right? Then have my take profit. That'll be very, very close, but trust me, this is US 2000. US 2000 is still the most profitable indices you could find, far more expensive than the profit per pip is far more expensive than US 100, US 30, and US 500 combined. Right. So we have I'm going to be going in for my buy at price level 1961.7, 1961.7. Have my take profit at 1963.7, 1963.7, 1963.7. So those are my entry for US 2000, for US 2000. All right, so it's actually very nice having you guys. Sorry for the break. We had a little bit of technical issues. It's Nigeria, right? When you think you've had everything figured out, something just comes and take you off guard, right? So it was nice having you guys. The whole essence of this money market review is for you to get to understand all these entries, why certain things are done in certain ways, and for you to assimilate that so that you can take trades yourself, right? The road to becoming a professional trader has a lot of trial and errors in it, right? But as much as possible, I want you to maximize your trial and errors on your this thing on your demo account, so that by the time you're coming from good habit on your demo account, so that by the time you're going into your real account, you're going into your real account with healthy habits, right? I didn't have anybody telling me this at my early stage when I was learning, and I burnt my finger quite a couple of times, right? So also that's a perseverance, that persistence would actually give you that result you're looking for. Take trades proportional to your lot size, and curtail your greed as much as possible. Try to fight your greed, because once you're greedy in this market, you might stand to lose all. It's nice having you guys, and do have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful day. Okay, so the afternoon class is by 3. Yes, we have currency session by 1 p.m. for currency traders, and then we have another the live trading session by 3 p.m. Right. For beginners class, we have beginners class by 10 a.m. Monday and Tuesday. That's in the morning, Monday and Tuesday beginners class. And for evening beginners class, we have them Tuesdays to Thursdays, 6 p.m. Tuesdays to Thursdays, 6 p.m. Do have a wonderful day.